What is up, guys? So I have Jamie is working on getting all this plugged in. If you guys go ahead and drop your location where you're at. So here's how this is going to work tonight. She's actually she lives in my neighborhood, so she's actually 2 doors down. But I'm going to be monitoring any questions that you guys have. What's up, Angela? Throughout tonight. We posted this earlier in the week in the groups to see what questions you guys did have, and throughout, so she's going to be answering and addressing those. So Jamie is a registered dietitian. Her and her husband. Her husband is actually my chiropractor here in the Fort Mill area. And they are. I'll read you guys her bio right now. Before we get started, as I'll introduce her before she's even here, and then I'll bring her in on camera once she's get it. She's having some technical difficulties, but all is good. We'll get it figured out. What's up, Don White? All right, so her profile is this. She's as a registered dietitian, Jamie can assess your current situation and guide you towards the best options to suit your needs. She offers one-on-one counseling towards lifestyle change, or if you do best, more with structure, can lead you through the ideal protein weight loss protocol. Jamie has been facilitating this highly effective program in the clinic since 2010 and is confident in recommending it to anyone with a desire to lose weight, whether the goal is to lose 5 pounds or 500 pounds. So Jamie has worked in many clinical settings throughout her career, including long-term care, WIC. She's a personal trainer, nutrition counselor at a fitness facility, and telephonic health coach. Jamie's also a certified diabetes educator and enjoys assisting in the prevention and management of diabetes. She realized the importance of proper diet education for ideal control of this condition and welcomes the opportunity to assist individuals in improving their health outcomes. As far as their family, they've got 4 little ones, so they're a crazy bunch as well. And I'm about to bring her in right now. So anyways, Jamie, can you wave to me? Can you hear me? Sweet. All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on screen. There she is.
There I am. I made it. It's touch and go.
Good.
I made it.
I was reading your bio off your guys' website.
Oh, yep. I heard that. Came with my introduction. You gotta love that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and let you take it over from here, but I'll be monitoring different questions. And then after you go through, I know you got some questions early in the week from everyone. And so as you go through that, I'll pop back on and give you some questions that people are asking.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Go into.
I don't mind. Okay. We good? Yes. Good. So, sorry, something popped up on my screen. I'm not sure. So, yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what we should talk about tonight. So I asked to make that post. So we can maybe do like a hot topic thing. Just kind of curious what's on your guys' mind, and I wasn't sure what has been covered in these nutrition seminars recently. So got a few questions. And they were one related to intermittent fasting and my thoughts on that. One related to how to naturally flush your body, so I'll answer that one too as best I can. And thirdly, the pros and cons of carb cycling. So I just thought that I'll just go ahead. I mean, obviously this is super informal. As I'm sitting in my house, hoping that none of the 4 children decide to pop in and interrupt. So I was just going to start with intermittent fasting. It's a big buzzword out there. I think it's pretty popular. We're all hearing about it, but I just wanted to make sure that y'all knew what it is and why it might be beneficial. Maybe some things that you weren't really sure of, like, all right, well, why should I do that? So obviously a fast is a time of fasting is a short period of time that you don't have something, like a window of time that you choose where you're not consuming food. And during this time, what can happen is your body can accomplish things like hormone stabilization, blood glucose normalization, and you can also burn fat for energy. So those are some of the benefits of intermittent fasting. And when you go at least 12 hours without eating, then something called autophagy occurs, and that is our body's way of cleaning out damaged cells in order to regenerate newer and healthier cells. So if you kind of think about it, your cells are working all day, every day to keep us up and running. And this process of autophagy produces, well, obviously, so that constant work by your cells produces waste. And autophagy is the cleanup crew for that. So it goes in and cleans up all the waste, gets rid of the damaged cells, and then we are left with our high-performing cells, which means that those are the cells that are going to produce energy and vitality, which, right, we all want that. So it also can help burn fat more efficiently. Again, I think we're all looking for that. And studies have shown that 16-hour fasting windows can allow the autophagy to induce decreased fat mass and increased muscle mass, which is also really cool. I think there's a lot of people out there with that goal of, I want to lose some fat, gain some muscle, and definitely we all, when we're working on a goal, we want to make sure that we are, if we're losing something, that we're losing fat, because fat is not metabolically active, muscle is. So when we trade muscle or trade fat for muscle, then that means that our metabolism is going up. So, when you're doing the analysis at the gym, you want to see that muscle mass go up, and then you're also going to, corresponding to that, see that your metabolic burn is also going to go up. So that's really cool. Some of the reported perks of intermittent fasting are a decrease in bloating, again, a decrease in body fat percentage, muscle gain, increased mental clarity, sign me up for that, increased energy levels, decreased acne and breakouts, decreased irritable bowel syndrome breakout or symptoms, and also decreased anxiety and stress. So those are some of the reported perks of, allowing your body, when we're not eating all the time, your body has the opportunity to do other jobs and to rest and to heal. So that's a really good benefit. And so kind of how you go about it is you choose an eating window. Usually a window of 8 hours is a good place to start. Some people, go as tight as 6 and 4 hour windows, but that would be something that would be for someone who's maybe been at it for a while. And that 8 hour window is a good sufficient amount for your body to maximize the decreased fat and increased muscle. And then you just choose a window that works for your schedule. So there's no necessarily rules of you have to stop eating at this time and start eating at this time. When I do intermittent fasting, which I'm kind of an ongoing nutrition experiment of my own, so I definitely do intermittent fasting, and I enjoy it, and I see the benefits of it. When I do it, I typically find myself stopping eating, around 8 or 9 o'clock is more realistic for our lifestyle, and then I will start eating around noon. So I will fast from 8 or 9 until 12 or 1, and then I have that 8 hour eating window. And that works well for me, but it might be something totally different for you. So it's really important that whatever you're doing, whatever nutritional strategy you're jumping into, that it's something that can be adapted into your life. Because we try to put ourselves, and our patterns and what we know about ourselves into a particular box that just doesn't fit, then you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. So just make sure when you're coming up with or deciding to try something new, and you're paying attention to it. What do I know about myself? What do I know that's not going to change and that's not going to work, so that you can work around that and make it adaptable to you. Yep. Sorry, Adam.
No, you're good. I've got a lot of people have asked questions on they're like 5 a.m. workout people.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do like an 8-hour, they're starving. Like, because I guess typically 11 a.m. is kind of the mark, right? People say 11 to 7, where it's more of that gap that's more important, correct, than the actual clock.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend for people that want to do it but work out at 5 a.m. and are getting up at 4 a.m.?
So how I manage that, because that's my typical, so I don't work out at 5 a.m. every day,
Right.
but there are things that you can consume that don't break your fast. So what I do has a lot of different names: keto coffee, bullet coffee, whatever. So I use MCT oil and grass-fed ghee. You can use grass-fed butter as well. You can use coconut oil. And I blend that in my coffee. So I'm getting calories and nutrition and satiety in before I have my first meal.
So what breaks a fast? Like, yeah.
So fat like that, like any kind of those oils, butter, anything like that will not. Anything with carbohydrates, protein, like even a collagen powder will break a fast. So you just have to be careful with that. It has to basically be strictly fat in order to, and coffee is fine. Like non-nutritive sweeteners shouldn't break a fast, but with some people, because our bodies recognize that sweet taste, some people actually with artificial sweeteners will still get an insulin response. So anything that's going to cause an insulin response is going to break your fast, because it's a blood sugar interruption. So, and the other thing too is if you work out, like if you want to have that first meal within 1 to 2 hours of your workout, you can also flip-flop. Maybe you're, closing your eating window the day before a little bit earlier, and adjusting it that way. I do that also sometimes, since I don't work out that early every single day. But it's, important to listen to your body and know your body. And if you know that, going that long without eating afterwards. And I know there's a lot of, maybe some question as like, well, shouldn't I eat right after I work out? And really, it's always important to look at your big picture. Like, what am I eating throughout the day? That's going to be fueling to your workouts, your overall nutrition too. If you can't make that ideal 1 to 2 hour window. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that question all the time, because I know, people ask me personally. I'm not a dietitian or anything, but I've always just told them that the more important thing is the window, not necessarily the timing, and kind of adapt it to what it is. So if someone wants to get into that, is it beneficial to maybe start, like someone who's never done it, could they start at like a 12-hour window, or could they start at a 10-hour window?
Yeah, absolutely. So that autophagy, however you say that big word, starts within that 12-hour window. So if you can make it to that 12 hours, that's a really good place to start. Okay. And then I think the other thing that's really important for someone getting started, as to not self-sabotage, is you really, really need to be in tune to your hunger cues. Like you don't want to I only eat for 8 hours. So, I missed breakfast. I'm just going to only eat what I would normally eat, lunch, dinner, and you're missing that whole chunk of calories and nutrition. So it is, right. You have to be very diligent about, okay, what am I putting in my body during those 8 hours to make sure that you are achieving the goals that you want. The quality is absolutely going to be what affects your outcomes.
Perfect. Awesome. Cool. Fallon just asked, how long should you fast for? Like, how many weeks? So, is this something that you would recommend as a long-term thing, as a short-term kickstart? What does that look like?
It kind of depends on your goals. So, you might say, okay, I'm going to give it a try and do like a 3-week type jump into it, kind of see how it works for you. And again, it can kind of jumpstart. Maybe you want to get yourself out of a rut of eating poorly, whatever it might be, whatever your goals. So it kind of just depends on you. I don't think there's anything ideal. But you want to give with anything. Like if you do, it's just like going to the gym. Like you go to the gym one day, you're not gonna achieve that. So it's just like anything that requires work. Like you have to be committed and consistent with it, and realize that it's not going to happen on its own, and that you're going to have to put a little time and effort in.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone that's like, I think you're going to talk about something. One or two other questions that came up. But I think the overarching thing is like what I've always communicated to people: do what is going to be sustainable for you. Because I see so many people try this, try that, try this, try that. And it's just a self-sabotage cycle that they continue to go through. And I mean, you're completely right. It's what can you do when you add up the days of like 4 workouts a week for 3 weeks in a row, and then you get burnout, or 6 workouts a week, or even 10 workouts a week. But when you look at the longevity and the big picture, Kurt always talks about that from our Myrtle Beach. I mean, he's huge into nutrition, and he's what can you sustain over a long period of time, So I think with people thinking about nutrition and what it is, it's like, stop trying to get that quick fix.
Yeah, and it's what you're talking about. I always call it kind of like, it's like ADD. Like, oh, I'm going to do this, but my friend just told me they're going to do that. So, and I just read something on this. And so I have that, like I've experienced that over and over again with people. It's like, you got to just pick something and stick with it, where it's not going to get you anywhere. And then you can't blame the program. You can't blame that one food. That you can't blame that for your own lack of commitment.
Yeah. No, I think any diet works. I mean, you can argue the internal benefits or internal, damage that's being done without all of them, the 30 that are out there, but I think they all work if you're sustainable with it.
Absolutely. And we are all on a diet because
Right.
we all eat. So that's the important thing, is that your diet, you're always on a diet. So you can't think of, oh, today I'm on a diet, but tomorrow I'm going to do whatever I want. So you really, it's about finding that rhythm or that thing that works for you, and then turning it into a lifestyle. So you have like the continuity. And, one of the big things of that is like learning how to eat intuitively. We fight our bodies so much on, I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat now, or I'm not hungry, but it's time to eat, so I'm going to eat. And that was really good, so I'm going to eat more of it. And so we really, we have turned eating into like an event or entertainment, when really, in fact, it's meant to fuel our bodies. That's it. It's not about, oh, this tastes good and that tastes bad. It's like, there's a lot of really good foods out there that are really good for us, and we just need to think of what our body needs, because we want a lot out of it, and then we get angry, like, oh, I can't, my workout sucked, or this. Like, well, what did you eat? What are you doing?
What would you, I would say the majority of people are the weekend warriors out there. So typical person, maybe 3 to 6 drinks a week, socializes, gets to the gym 4 times a week. What would you recommend to them because what I see is a lot of people come in, they get results because they haven't been doing something, and then they plateau and they sustain. I don't even like to use the word plateau. They stay the same because their habits haven't changed. But what is there where they can still keep the social life? Like, what do you recommend from a mindset standpoint to stop self-sabotaging? Like, what is that? It's all.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was saying it's all mental.
No, it is mental, and it depends on what you want. And so I think it's also an evolving process. Like, because if you try to go, all out, all of a sudden you're doing nothing, and now you start going to the gym and you, completely change your diet, you stop drinking, you just give up everything that you once knew as enjoyment. And, you start to see the results, but then something happens, or you feel tempted by something, and so you give into that, and then you feel like, well, I've messed it up, so I might as well quit. And so I think a really good approach to what you're saying, so say you have someone coming in who, maybe they're not exercising and their diet's poor. I think it's really good to, you start somewhere. So exercise is the place where you start. And then, you work on that, and you work on developing that habit. And then once that habit's developed, you've seen some results, but we all know those results are only going to go so far until you start bringing in, some other methods. And so at that point, it doesn't mean that you have to all of a sudden eat, vegetables and protein and drink, 64 plus ounces of water and do everything perfectly as it's framed. But you look at, okay, well, here's what I'm doing now, and what in there is not serving me in terms of fuel. What am I putting in my body that has calories but lacks nutrition? And what could, or you're looking at well, what could I be adding? Because we don't always want to make it negative. Everything's negative. So what could I be adding into my diet? So say you're like, well, I don't really eat any vegetables. So you start adding some vegetables in your diet, and that means that you're maybe eating less bread with your meal or whatever. So it can be a very organic process, but there just sometimes needs to be a little guidance, because I don't know that everyone understands that you can do it that way, that it's not all or nothing. It's not perfection. I eat cake. I do, I drink, I do all of those things, but I also have worked out a way because I like to feel good. And I've learned that what I put in my body and keeping regular workouts makes me feel and function at my best. So it's of value to me. So it's finding value in it, I think.
So what would you say, because I know there's probably a lot of moms on here, what would you say, going deeper into that? You have 4 kids. What would you say from a motivational and a mental standpoint of why they, if they're constantly going through this, of they're great Monday through Friday and then the weekend, and they're doing this cycle. Because I know even for myself, that's typically, I'm so busy Monday through Friday, then it's like, my God, I got some time on Saturday and Sunday. I can have, a few beers and we grab some wings, and all of a sudden you feel like you're a failure. But what would you say is getting back to the feeling point? Because I think so many people that I've come across over the past 10 years in the industry, it's they're doing it for the aesthetic, when I think there needs to be more awareness on the feeling. But you've obviously worked with people on a far deeper level when it comes to nutrition. What have you found in all that?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that's exactly what I was thinking, is you have to define your true why. And if it's not the size of your jeans, if that's kind of well, whatever, that doesn't really matter to me. But maybe your energy level to, run after your kids all week, and to still have some energy to be a wife and a friend and all of the other things, or an employee, all the demands that we have, what is your why? Why are you here? Why do you go to the gym? Why do you, pick up vegetables when you go grocery shopping? So really figuring out what makes you tick and how you like to feel, and then figuring out how to balance the rest of it out, because it's not realistic for most people to not have a couple beers on the weekend. So just finding those ways, or looking for healthier options for like wings. Like the air fryer, we're like firing up wings all the time, and there's no oil. There's fat on the chicken, but I mean, that's from the chicken at least. It's not, who knows what kind of oil and who knows what else has been fried in there, like how many times. So it's just finding that way, first of all, defining the why, but then finding a way to balance it out. So does that mean that, Friday through Sunday, you can do whatever you want? No, that usually doesn't work out well for I've tried it repeatedly. But what does work is like deciding like, okay, well, here's creating boundaries so that you're not feeling like a failure and completely giving up, but you're like, okay, here's what's really important to me on Friday. I, want to be able to go out and have a few beers. Here's, I want a burger or from XYZ, or I want to go wherever and, have that flexibility. But during the other meals and times of those weekends, you keep focused on your goals. And I really do think it is helpful to not, to have your workout scheduled so that you're not so you're doing something during the weekend to kind of keep your eye on the prize there, because I find like if I have too many days without my workouts, I'm kind of like, I lose focus, but when you're doing the two things together, or you're eating well, then you're more motivated to exercise. You're exercising, you're more motivated. And really the two have to go hand in hand.
Yeah, it boils down to self-awareness. And I think when you guys start to recognize your patterns, so for me, I know like some people are, when I eat really well, I work out well. Some people are, I can work out well. I can work out 6 days a week, and I'm still not eating well. For me, it's when I work out well, meaning frequency. When I get in my 6 workouts a week, that's parallel with nutrition. So I'm very much like an all in, all out type person. I know that about myself. But when you guys when you said that about the weekend, it's important for me to stay on track to work out on Saturday mornings. Just because it does start the day right. And that if you work out, chances of you waking up and eating pancakes or making pancakes for your kids are less likely than grabbing a smoothie, going to a workout, and then, maybe you eat something bad in the afternoon or whatever, but it's not a full on, 48 hours.
And it's not, when you like, think of it as, okay, this particular food may not be in full support of my goals. So rather than labeling them like good and bad, so you feel that way, but just realize like there are some foods that are not, necessarily going to move you towards your goals, but they don't have to keep you from it either.
Right.
And I found too, since we started going to ISI, since we can go together and bring the kids, we work out on Friday afternoon together. That's something that we can all do together versus us, going in two different directions. And we can work out on Saturday morning together. So, just finding ways to work. I don't think any of us get enough family time. I know, in my house, that's really important. I feel like I don't even see my husband during the week. So, not really going to be like running away as soon as he gets home from work. So just finding ways that you can incorporate your family. And also, from a mom perspective and a dad perspective, when they see us working out and they see us eating well, we all know they pay attention to everything we say, because then they repeat it when we want them to. But we're setting a really good example. So we're just like, that's, I think, a really great gift that you can give your children, is to see that, it's not that we are perfect, or that there's no, treats that ever happen or junk food, but that they, for the most part, we're just taking really good care of ourselves. And that's, I think, like I said, the best gift that you can give your children.
Right. What would you say to everyone out there? So we know science is science, and we know to get results from a weight loss standpoint, it's a calorie deficiency. what would you say to someone and those out there that are counting calories? Do you recommend it? Do you recommend it for certain people? Macros? What advice do you have around all of that?
So
I know it's a question.
I am admittedly am not a calorie counting dietitian at all. Like it's so everything that I do or that I would work with a client on, I do and feel comfortable with doing myself.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Like I have to practice what I preach or else I can't stand behind it. So calorie counting is just it's not my jam. I think that it's maybe important for someone to find out where they are, because I think there is a lot of under eating going on out there that keeps people from reaching their goals. So having a baseline of like, okay, yeah, I eat this many calories according to this MyFitnessPal or whatever everyone's using right now. And even that, like, there's a margin of error. Like, calorie counting is very, finicky, because it would be hard to get it exactly right because we overestimate, underestimate. So really the approach that I like to take, and I'm also, you asked about macros. That's not a big, like, I would rather do carbohydrate counting with someone. I think that's easier to do than calorie counting. So I would look like at that macro and help them balance it out that way. But typically the approach that I like to take with a client is, okay, what are you doing? Like, tell me what you are eating, what you are drinking, what kind of exercising you're doing. Tell me your goals, and let's leave with, depending on the person, just some actionable items, like some things that you can walk out and feel comfortable changing right then without having, because when you're counting everything, it becomes overwhelming. It can also create an obsession, and then that creates a poor mindset and a bad relationship with food. And there's a lot of that out there. And so, for me, I think if in my ideal world, I would just teach my clients how to eat intuitively, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, but really pay attention to what you're putting in your body.
Awesome. What are some tips or tricks for people to say that, like, the emotional eaters? I mean, is it as simple as just teaching yourself, like you talking about, is like, look, I'm not hungry right now, I'm stressed? Or is there something where you think drink more water at that point in time? Because when you're stressed, that's typically where you have the least discipline, I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't, so there's going to be those times, like for someone who has a true stress eating problem, the first thing that I try to help them identify, okay, when's it happening? Like, when is this eating that's not, it's not related to physiological hunger, but it's psychological. When's that happening? So identifying the time of day, what they're typically going for. And then I always just ask the question, so did eating whatever it was that you ate, did that make your stress go away? Did that make the emotion go away? Or did that create another stressor, another emotion that you then had to be stressed and emotional about? Does that make sense? So, like, are we compounding the the stress and emotion? Yeah, because then you feel bad because you just, went to the pantry and ate whatever you could get your hands on. I mean, it's real, so it's not necessarily a matter of, well, just don't do it. But there are tips and tricks. Like, for example, you should know that what goes in your grocery cart is going to go in your mouth for the most part. Especially if it's something, we all have those things that we can leave behind. So if you have a food that triggers things like this, don't buy it, or ask that your family not bring it into the house if you're not the food gatekeeper. But yeah, just kind of really, it's again, that self-awareness of, I'm not hungry, this is bothering me. So maybe learning how to, like, okay, how can I tackle what's actually bothering me? Is it a conversation I need to have with somebody? Do I need to go for a walk? Like, what do I need to do? Meditate, listen to music, take a bath, drink some tea.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. So I just quoted that because it's true. Like, I mean, we're not the most strict parent. I mean, our kids eat healthy 80% of the time, I'd say, but it is true. Like, if there is, like I think here, right, I'm right next to it right now. So if there is, let's say, these guys that we get for the kids that they'll eat maybe 1 or 2 days a week.
Yeah.
I swear one of these packs ends up in my stomach.
Because you're going to be like, there's those times when you're like, wow, I'm really hungry. And I don't know what I'm going to eat right now, or it's going to be a minute before I can eat a meal, or it would take me more time to get something more nutritious. So yeah, and then it's like, you're kind of like, oh, what'd I do that for? But
yeah, and then you're hating yourself.
Yeah.
No.
Or it can like, it starts that cascade. Like for me, something like that would just like fuel my hunger, and then I'd be like, oh, what's next? What else is there?
Yeah. So I noticed, obviously you live 2 doors down. So for anyone that doesn't know that, and our kids are friends, so they're drinking, what is it, like a flavored seltzer water?
Yes, we do the, it says like fruit essences. And so Earth Fare had a brand that we really, really loved, but now they're gone. So I've been getting it at Whole Foods, because that's another thing that's really of value to us is, what's going in to all of our bodies, what's going into our body, what's going on our body, like anything that we have control of, then, we try to exercise that control. Yeah, they like that. That's all they really drink is water. So we have a distiller, like a machine that like heats the water, so that we filter our water that way for our drinking water. And then we have the cans of the seltzer or whatever, sparkling water with like some kind of non-GMO, non-artificial flavor in it.
Yeah. So I think like anybody out there with kids, which is probably the majority of you guys, maybe that's a first step, is to not, if you're buying, something like a Kool-Aid pack or something like that, and you find yourself drinking that, your kids getting into your kids' snacks, maybe that's a first step. Because no, I think it's so true. What you said, what goes in your grocery cart usually goes in your mouth.
Yeah. So that's a really good opportunity. So you make any treat that you're going to have something that you actually go out and get. So maybe if ice cream's your weakness, then go somewhere like that might be like a family treat to go get ice cream.
Right.
Or like when we go out to eat, we let our kids get like lemonade or sweet tea or something. So it's not like they don't ever have that, but it's not something that's happening every day. And what we have tried to also do is we have Treat Friday. So instead of having treats every single day, like we have like on Friday, maybe we'll get ice cream and some toppings or make brownies or something like that. So it's not just the free for all the time.
Right. No, I like that. Cool. What was it? I know we're at 40 minutes now. What was one of the other questions that were asked earlier in the week? Do you recall?
Let's see. So one of the other questions was on carb cycling, like the pros and cons. And so I've definitely looked into carb cycling. It seems a little bit more complex maybe than, just like my regular old carb control, just because it's all about like, on this day I eat more carbohydrates, and then on this day I eat less. And it can be a really good method, especially, if like, say you have more intense workouts on certain days, like that's a really good day to maybe like take advantage of getting your carbs in there. So that way it's not that you have to slash your carbs altogether, but you're just, you know, timing them in a way that's going to allow you to fuel your workouts. Just because carbohydrates are our body's preferred fuel source during exercise, but in their absence, then we switch to fat burning. So, you know, there's a benefit to eating carbs, you know, to power your workout, but there's also a benefit to not. So having that option of, you know, just that like high and low days can be helpful. So, you know, that would definitely be a benefit. It allows you just to be more strategic about your carb intake. Of course, you're still going to want to pay attention to what those carbs are. So it's not, oh, it's a high carb day, it's time for cake. You know, that's not really how you should look at it if you want it to work out. And some people, like, I mean, I'll just use myself as an example. I find that less carbohydrates are better in terms of my overall function, just my motivation, my mental clarity, my mood, my energy, my appetite. So, you know, people who have that same realization about themselves can still, you know, fuel their high intensity interval training workouts while controlling their carbs too. So it's kind of gives you like, you can have your carbs and eat it too. So those are some of the pros of it. The cons, I mean, you know, from a science perspective, there's not yet a lot of research out there. There's like nothing, like no definitive data. So it's kind of just more of a, you know, preference. It might be something, sometimes athletes, like endurance athletes, you know, use carb cycling for their like peak and non-peak. There's some evidence that shows that if you control your carbs more tightly, you know, maybe when you're not at peak training, that your body can more efficiently use them when you do eat more of them when your training ramps up. But again, I mean, it's just, as I mentioned before, a con of it would be that obsession with counting macros and, oh, it's well this day and that day. And so, you know, for some people that, you know, is all consuming. So you want to just really make sure you can maintain a good relationship with food and that you're making good choices. Again, I mean, that's always a theme with me. It's always going to come down to like that quality fuel. And you know, the other thing is it can limit, like whenever we're limiting, like we're cutting out a food group or, you know, like a macronutrient, it does limit us. But there's still ways to, of course, get the nutrition that you need, but you just have to be really conscientious about it. You can't just willy-nilly like, oh, I'm, you know, carb cycling and this is, I only eat these 5 foods. So
right.
Just keeping that in mind.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think like because you'll hear people that'll say, you know, and I think there's no right way, right? To, from whatever that you can freaking stick to. Like that's the overarching thing. Cause so many people are so confused about nutrition. Should I do keto? Should I do carb cycling? Should I do intermittent fasting? Should I do low cal? Should I do a fat free? Yada, da, da, da. Like it goes on and on and on. And it's, for the consumer, the average person, it's so confusing because they'll see someone get great results on keto. Then they'll see someone get great results on carb cycling. And it's like, what do I do? Screw it. I'm doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've literally, like, I've done it all. I'm a person, like I am an experiment in process, like most of the time. And what I will tell you is, you just have to do what works for you. Like you have to, you know, like, and that's one of the things we fight is, well, I know that, you know, I've done like that limiting carbs before, I've done keto. And just in a little side note on keto, there are a lot of ways to achieve ketosis. So you have to like, it's not just that, you know, like the fat bomb way. There are other ways to get into like that nutritional ketosis. So you know, you just need to be, it can't just be something that one day you decide to do. Sometimes like You need a little guidance. And I will tell you all day long, I have no rocket science to present ever. But what I, can do for people is I'm an extra set of eyes. I'm, things that, we don't always think about things that are right in front of us because we can't see the forest for the trees. It's just like, when you're proofreading a paper that you've written, you're not going to maybe see the mistakes, but I will look at it and right away I will see, well, you spelled that wrong, So I think, it's sometimes you do have to find someone somewhere that you can team up with, and that can, you can talk it through with, and that can hold you accountable because, you need to be able to enjoy it. And if you're not getting out of it what you want, then you're not going to keep doing it. So, you can't, again, it's like, you can't put yourself in a box that you're not going to fit in ever.
Yep. I agree. So with that, for anyone on here or watching the replay, if they want to work with you, you are in Fort Mill, but you do online.
Yeah. So that's kind of something that I like, in this current situation that we're in. And it would would work really well for me, just based on my schedule, is that, I can be way more flexible on the phone or, on a video chat than necessarily being in my office. So that works really well. I've been doing the virtual consults lately, and, I'm kind of like, I've done a lot of different things. I'm comfortable with writing. I'm comfortable with chatting. I'm comfortable with texting. So anything that kind of up for anything.
Awesome. So what does that look like? So for anyone who's interested, like what is it that you do? Like, do you do a custom meal plan? What does that look like for the average person who say they've been wanting to lose 20 pounds. They've been working out, because that's pretty much everyone on here. But they want to take things to the next level. They're ready to commit or make a habit change. So what is it that you would do with them, or typically, like, what's your guys' protocol?
So I don't do meal plans. So just because, again, it's not something that I would do myself. So I will absolutely provide guidance in terms of, okay, let's look at what you're doing and, find things that we can add, find things that we might want to limit. I do have, a framework. So, like, here's the foods that I recommend that are going to be like your really good, wholesome, anti-inflammatory foods that will serve you well in terms of, how your body can best process them. And then, just help them set some goals, like, where do we start? So again, it's just a jumping off point. Like, let's start with just like a few actionable items, and then let's see how that goes. And, then let's reconvene. And the first time it's like an hour that I might talk with someone. And then after that, just like 30-minute sessions are good. Or it could be, I'm always in between. If someone has a question, text me, call me, email me, like, I'm here.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. I don't care if it's nutrition or if it's business coaching or if it, like, what it is. I think to have another set of eyes that doesn't know you or doesn't have those ties or that relationship yet. Oftentimes when you first get a coach, that is when you yield the highest results. And so for anyone who's out there, who's been doing the calorie counting, who's super confused about nutrition, I would just encourage you guys to maybe look at, what does it look like to have somebody, just identifying and asking questions and bringing, again, like, throughout this whole thing we've talked about, it all comes down to self-awareness. It does. And what works for you and what can you do that is achievable for the long term. Anybody can, lose 20 pounds in a month doing the extreme crazy freaking diet, and like, anybody can do that, but it's not sustainable. And most likely all of you on here, including myself, have done something like that, where you've lost 10 or 15 pounds in a month. but it's not sustainable. And you know that. And so I would just encourage you guys that just reach out to Jamie and see, have a conversation of what it looks like, to do the nutrition part. And if, I hate meal plans myself, I would never stick to it. I know other nutritionists, are believers in the calorie counting. I personally am not. I won't stick to it. Just because I'm going every which way, and it stresses me out. For some people, it works.
Yeah. Yes, that person should definitely do it. But also, I think when you find somebody to team up with, you all are great about staying in contact, with your members, and it's the same. You're able to then remind people where they came from, because people forget that really, really easily, and we have a real hard time realizing our own successes. And because we're like, I want to lose 40 pounds. Well, you lost 5. Well, but that's not 40. But you have to lose that 5 to get to the 40. But everybody, so you have to take the time along the road to celebrate your success and to realize oh, I used to do this, or this, or I didn't work out at all. And, just that person or that cheerleader, in a sense, to remind you, you know what, you are really doing a good job. And remember when you did this, and, look at this accomplishment. So I think that's just another benefit sometimes of, having that extra little pat on the back.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, cool. Well, I appreciate it. I know everyone else appreciates it. And then so they can just shoot you a text or call you.
Yeah. Texting is usually really good, just because I'm not going to miss it. Sometimes calls come through and I'm like, oh, that wasn't a junk call. So I respond really well to texting because I can do it anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter, the sky is usually falling at my house in some way or another. So I'm not really great with the.
You guys have a quarter-sized turtle pet right now.
Yeah. That's been a big excitement. It was actually watching TV with my children on the couch a little while ago. So that's the big exciting news at our house this week. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Cool. Well, I appreciate it. I know everybody else appreciates it. And then y'all just reach out. There's her number. I put it in the bottom left-hand corner. That is right?
Yeah.
Make a typo.
You just spelled my name right, so that's bonus points there.
I didn't look if you see if I take us away.
Works.
I caught it today, so second time's a charm.
I'll give you a free pass on that one.
All right. Cool. Well, sounds good. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.